All right, one last look at your traffic and weather for your ride in on this Tuesday morning. Let's see what's happening around the city. Not seeing any major delays as of right now. Don't see any accidents around the city currently at the moment. Hopefully it stays that way through the rest of the day. Weather-wise, it's going to be 89 with a little bit of cloud cover. Currently 78 here in Columbia. That's traffic and weather here on the game. All right, welcome in. 9 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri along with you here on the game. If you're tuning in for finding out who the next head coach for South Carolina is going to be, unfortunately, we still don't have any news for you as we continue to wait. Looks like we're going to have to wait at least until some teams get eliminated in Omaha. I guess a former candidate, maybe a candidate that's still on the table but not as popular, and Dan Fitzgerald does get eliminated yesterday, but Jax, we've talked about not as much smoke with that here as of late, so I don't even know if we'd consider him a serious top-end candidate anymore.
I wouldn't. His name hasn't been brought up at all recently, and really hasn't for the last week or so. So, yeah, I think he's pretty much someone that is on the back burner, out of the running, someone that we put on the hot board, like someone that we're just not hearing much about right now. So, yeah, I wouldn't view him as much of a candidate. Of course, the wait continues to see if it's going to be Kevin Schnall or more long-term wait if it's going to be someone that's playing in Omaha right now, because you do have 3 potential candidates that are coaching teams that are out there in Omaha. Good news is those 3 coaches start coaching on Friday out in Omaha, so they could be done as soon as Sunday if they go 0-2. So that's the one silver lining there, but this wait has been very long because a lot of teams have advanced. So it wouldn't be shocking if some of these teams play well out in Omaha. And the good news is West Virginia and Troy will be pinned up against each other, Skylar Meade and Steve Saban. So one of those teams is going to have to lose that first game and be on the verge of elimination going into Sunday.
Double elimination format out there in Omaha, as you said. And one of those coaches could potentially be done by Sunday. So I think we can say with a lot of confidence there will not be a head coaching hire by the end of the week. If it's not happened by now, with again Schnall being as available as he is.
I don't know about that.
You don't know about that?
We'll see. We'll see. This whole Schnall thing, I don't know. We'll see when it happens. I would say, if it's getting towards like after Wednesday or Thursday and there's nothing that's happened yet, then I kind of feel like, okay, we're probably not getting anything this week, right? So, it's only Tuesday. I don't want to fully rule anything out yet. But, the thing with Schnall, I would say, is it's June 9th right now. His season ended, a week and a half ago almost now. Mm-hmm. We're approaching that. I think at some point, business has probably been as usual for him, over at Coastal. But if he's still waiting out on this South Carolina job, or South Carolina's still figuring out what they want to do, because obviously they're still figuring out what they want to do. Otherwise, there would have been something out there by now about what they're going to be doing. If I'm Schnall and I'm Coastal Carolina, I'm putting a hard deadline on this thing. Like, at some point, because Coastal, they've had a lot of players leave for the transfer portal, but notice how they haven't brought anyone in yet.
Yep.
Right? Teams like Tennessee's brought in a handful of players. LSU's brought in players. Like, teams have been bringing in players. Coastal is not, to my knowledge. Now, if I'm Coastal Carolina, I'm talking to Schnall. I'm figuring out what the heck is going on. Chance Miller, Kevin Schnall, figure out what's going on. And then, because, I'm sure if he returns to Coastal, there's going to be some incentive for him to come back, meaning more money, more resources, whatever. But you got to put a hard deadline on that thing. And then as for Schnall in South Carolina, if I'm Schnall, I want an answer like by tomorrow. Like, if you're not going to give me the job tomorrow, we're not going to offer it to me, forget about it. I'm moving on because I have a team to coach. I have things to figure out. Heck, he is responsible for the futures of so many recruits, players, families, etc., that he can't just continue to leave them hanging here over the next, few weeks as this whole thing plays out. So, and part of it is South Carolina really doing its due diligence to see what happens here. But if you're Schnall, you've got to find an answer on what's going on sooner rather than later.
And I think you're right on that. And the reason that I say I don't have a lot of confidence in the hire being made by the end of the week, because it seems like Donati is very much committed to vetting this process out fully with multiple candidates. Now, again, we don't know the specifics on who exactly those candidates are, but considering the fact that it's gotten this far, we've only learned about him specifically having a sit-down with Kevin Schnall last week, that leads us to believe that most of those candidates are guys that are going to be coaching in Omaha this upcoming week. And so it's like you've come this far with this idea of, hey, we will still want to talk to these guys, even though it's a longer wait. I don't know why you'd give up on it at the last second here. Again, you could be talking to one, if not multiple, of these guys by Monday or Tuesday of next week, because they could be done by this weekend out in Omaha. So I feel like you've come this far. Why not see the process out through the end? But you are right. If I'm Kevin Schnall and I have this decision to make, or I may really want the South Carolina job, but it's clear that I'm not the runaway number one candidate, there does come a breaking point where, like, hey, if you don't think I'm going to get this job, if you think, Scott Forbes is better than me and you're going to interview him and give him the job, then let me know, because I got this situation at Coastal. Like you said, we're losing players left and right to the transfer portal. I got to start building my team for next year so I don't put myself behind the eight ball waiting for this job, right? Because that's the thing, and that's what we talked about with Carolina when it comes to waiting to make this coaching hire potentially as late as next week. You are missing out on a lot of guys in the transfer portal and building what could be a good roster for next year. And like I said, I don't mind maybe sacrificing year number one for the long term to be better. But again, a guy like Kevin Schnall at Coastal Carolina does have a decision to make and a breaking point at some point in terms of staying or going.
I know people are going to be worried about the transfer portal and whatnot, but guess what? There's still going to be thousands of players that are in the transfer portal whenever South Carolina makes this hire. And let's also just preface this. The portal closes on June 30th. But again, cannot reiterate this enough. That does not mean South Carolina cannot make moves after June 30th. The portal just closes for players to enter their names in.
Right.
You could still add players after the fact. So throughout the month of July, South Carolina could still add players. So if they hire a coach like June 27th, hopefully that is not the case. Hopefully the coach is hired here, hopefully this week, maybe even going into next week still. There is plenty of time to build this roster. And again, wherever you get this coach from, more likely than not, some players are going to follow. You're going to be able to potentially retain some players. We've already seen some players find new schools, but I think there's still going to be some out there that are waiting to see what happens and who they hire and see if they can come back to South Carolina. Mm-hmm. So there is time to fill this roster out. But, yeah, I mean, you would ideally like to have this thing done by now, but it's not as simple as that because only like one of your top candidates is out of the postseason right now, and you're kind of just waiting to see what happens. You do run the risk, though. I think this is more so the risk than anything. If you're set on waiting on these other guys, you're definitely running the risk of losing Schnall. I think if it got past this week, I don't think you're getting Schnall. Because at that point, it's more so just, it's not that Schnall doesn't want the job.
Right.
I just think it's more so like he just can't afford to keep waiting on South Carolina.
Sure.
And why should he, right? He should not feel it's like dating a girl, right? And that girl is interested in you right now, but she's kind of keeping your options open, right? And she's waiting on this other guy to become available. Well, the longer that wait happens, the guy that's currently dating the girl in this situation should be ready to leave her, right?
Yeah.
So you shouldn't be with that girl to begin with.
Don't. Hopefully, you don't find yourself in that situation.
No, you don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to be strung along, led on, and then get screwed over, and then have nothing, right? And Schnall, for the good thing for him is he'll still be at Coastal regardless if South Carolina decides to go in another direction, right? And other jobs will become open over the next few years, and as long as he's still doing well at Coastal, like he said himself. there will still be interest in him for those jobs. But obviously, I think people would like to see him have this South Carolina job. But again, it is intriguing what these other guys are doing out in Omaha, or will be doing when they get out to Omaha. It's just the wait continues on that end. The schedule's kind of messed up, honestly, with the transfer portal opening on June 1st during the middle of the postseason. Like, I don't know why the portal can't open during July or end of June or something when the season's kind of coming towards an end.
Because that would make too much sense. And nothing about college sports, as we'll get into later in the hour, nothing about college sports makes sense anymore.
School doesn't even start till like middle of August. Like, why? I get maybe it has something to do with getting these kids enrolled, but let's be honest. I mean, it's more so, forget about the student athlete part. Some places are like that. It feels like it's more about the athletes first than the students, but I don't know.
I feel like it's ridiculous, and we talk about this with college football too, because now the portal opens up on January 1st or January 2nd, so you still have a handful of teams playing for the national championship, or at least in the running, that are having to dedicate part of their time during the week to transfer portal recruiting for the next upcoming season. Same thing here with college baseball, where, going into this past weekend, you still had 16 teams in contention for the national championship that, yes, are practicing and preparing for super regionals, and now obviously preparing for Omaha, also having to keep one eye on the transfer portal because they have to start thinking ahead to next year. Like, it's so broken, and I don't know why we decide, like, all right, yeah, June 1st, that's a great day for it. What was wrong with July 1st? I don't know. There's probably, maybe because it crosses over into a new calendar sports year, I guess, because that's when everything starts new for the next year on July 1st. Maybe it has something to do with it. I don't know. I think it's ridiculous, and again, one of many, many things in college sports that just seems broken beyond repair at this point.
Yeah. So, anyway, with Schnall, I feel like we've kind of been a broken record at this point. If it's going to be him, I feel like we've got to know here pretty soon. If it's not going to be him, then we probably won't know who the coach is going to be probably till you really hope it doesn't go all the way to the end of Omaha, because then you're talking about like June 22nd, June 23rd potentially. You're kind of hoping it's like, okay, some coaches get eliminated this weekend. Like, I think of the three coaches, I think North Carolina is probably still going to play on.
Mm-hmm.
I could see Troy going out this weekend, honestly, and Skylar Meade becoming available. And I think that would be, of those three candidates, which one would actually come to South Carolina of Forbes, Sabins, and Meade? I feel like it's got to be Meade, honestly, because I think Sabins is going to be taken care of at West Virginia. I think they're going to do everything they can to keep him there. And then with Forbes, I think North Carolina, as long as North Carolina does what they can to keep him, I think he likes being there enough he's been there for 25 plus years. He's been there since the turn of the century. Like, I don't think he's going anywhere as of right now, even if he is South Carolina's potential top choice. I think you just got to figure out what you're doing here soon with Schnall. That's the main thing. Figure out what you're doing there, because then you kind of know, okay, we're either hiring him potentially this week, or we're going to wait this thing out and see what happens. But I don't think you can continue to string that part of this along. You got to kind of figure out what you want. I don't think you can have the best of both worlds, unfortunately.
Well, and if it is these three guys in Forbes, Sabins, and Meade that are all still on your list, are you waiting until all three of them are eliminated to truly finish out this process? Or let's just say it is Sabins and Meade that get bounced this upcoming weekend and they're available to be interviewed by Tuesday or whatever. Are you willing to say, okay, we'll let Forbes go from this list because he's still playing on through the rest of the week in Omaha, and we'll focus on these three guys? Or are you so committed to this list that you have of candidates saying, hey, even if Forbes and North Carolina are playing into Monday, June the 22nd, we're going to wait it out because we want him to still be a part of this interview process?
Yeah, that's the thing. So it's a tough situation to be in, I would say. Look, if Schnall's okay waiting this thing out, that's great. But, I just don't think that makes much sense, to be honest. And if you're thinking about it from Coastal Carolina's standpoint and his standpoint, you'd want an answer, like, ASAP. And I think you got to it just puts a little bit of pressure on Carolina to really figure out what they want to do, right? I don't know. The longer this thing drags out, the more it screams to me they're going to be waiting this thing out. And there is risk that comes with that, because what if all three of those potential coaching candidates want to stay with their current schools, right? You're kind of ending up in a 2017 Kevin O'Sullivan situation, which I know a lot of fans don't want to see. So time will tell, but the clock continues to tick on what will be a very important hire for this program.
And we continue to wait. Things get rolling in Omaha coming up on Friday. A lot of good games this upcoming weekend, and we'll see how long we wait until South Carolina ultimately makes a head coaching hire. Transition to the pros coming up next. It was another thriller in the NBA Finals, game number 3. This one in MSG, and the Spurs pick up the victory. We'll talk about it next. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri on your Tuesday on the Game.
At AAA Heating and Air, home comfort is their top priority. Give a call today at 803-677-1500 to schedule a seasonal maintenance appointment. Let AAA Heating and Air's qualified technicians put your mind at ease with a thorough inspection and cleaning of your heating and cooling system. Join their popular AAA Comfort Club to take advantage of special extras such as flexible visits, added discounts, and priority scheduling. AAA Heating and Air also offers indoor air quality products that work with your HVAC system to improve your home's air quality. Cleaning the air eliminates common household odors, removes allergens and pollutants, and can even improve sleep and reduce the spread of some viruses. So go to callAAAtoday.com. Again, that is callAAA, 3A's, today.com for more info. Tell them Jack from 107.5 The Game sent you on over.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Let you know coming up in the 10 o'clock hour for the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. Aspen Boulware, incoming Gamecock softball player, fresh off of a state championship and a perfect season with Great Collegiate, going to be joining us in studio for a couple segments. So excited to hear about her as she gets ready to come in and join Ashley Chastain Woodard's crew for year number 3, and obviously bringing a lot of hype along with her with how great of a career she had at the high school level.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward to hearing from her and seeing what all is going on as she gets ready to enroll here later on this fall.
So that coming up in the 10 o'clock hour. Speaking of championships, we are getting closer to crowning an NBA champion for this season. Last night, though, things got pretty interesting out at the Garden, despite the fact that Charles Barkley at the halftime said this.
Listen, man, I told you tonight, this series is a wrap.
Think it's a wrap.
Oh, hell yeah.
You're down 5, going into halftime.
Down 5.
Down 6. Down 7.
Down 7.
Down 7.
Oh,
you think it's over?
I think it's over.
Wow.
Bet it. I'll put my house against your little house.
Shaq don't have a little house.
Well, you got it. Well, my house bigger than yours. Okay.
Now, at the time, the Knicks had erased a double-digit deficit. They were up by 7 points at halftime, but the Spurs end up picking up the victory 115-111 in the Garden, the first game that they had hosted at the Garden in the NBA Finals since 1999, and the Spurs survived the toughest test so far, going in there and picking up a win. Now, road teams have won all 3 of these games. They have a chance to even the series coming up tomorrow night.
Yeah, great win for the Spurs last night. They needed that one badly. Otherwise, this series, I think, would have been over if the Knicks were up 3-0. And you look at that game last night, it was pretty nip and tuck the entire game. And then, you get to that fourth quarter, and Spurs go up by a little bit, and then they kind of just managed to hold on the rest of the way. I think they got up by, at most, maybe 8 points down the stretch. And a lot of it did have to do with the Knicks shooting pretty poorly towards the end of that game. I think they started the fourth quarter off 0 of 10 from three-point range, and then they started hitting a few shots. But, again, the Knicks were always playing from behind in those final minutes, and then eventually just became too much when the Spurs, I think it was De'Aaron Fox, who I think was what you could say was the dagger last night on that mid-range jumper, on that step back. I mean, just a great shot there to kind of seal the game, because I think the Knicks were only down by 2 at that point with maybe less than 10 seconds to go. So, yeah, and I wouldn't be too concerned if I were a Knicks fan, although I did see a lot of Knicks fans fighting in the streets last night. So I think things are kind of hitting a wall right now for them. But still, up 2-1. You got Game 4 coming up on Wednesday back at home. You just don't want to be going back to San Antonio in a 2-2 split. You want to be going up 3-1 with a chance to clinch on, I guess it would be Saturday.
Yeah, and you talk about how thin the margins are here. I mean, if Wembanyama makes that jumper in game number 2 and the Spurs win that 106-105, we're talking about them having a 2-1 series lead. It's very thin. And look, you talk about a Knicks team that has been so dominant, and their 13-game winning streak in the postseason came to an end last night, but they have not played in a ton of close games. The Spurs have, right? So the Spurs seem to be more experienced in these type of games, and last night that ended up being the benefactor in what was the most hostile environment they're going to see this entire postseason. Again, tomorrow night's game is going to be rowdy, but there's nothing quite like that first one, especially with the long drought that New York fans had when it came to seeing their team playing in the finals at home. So the Spurs were able to survive that test, and now, again, I still think the Knicks are going to end up winning the series. Look, asking for a sweep in any NBA postseason series is asking for a lot, and the Knicks have already done it, in their past 2 series already. So I knew the Spurs were going to get one, but if they can manage to get game number 2, get the second win tomorrow night, that changes the entire narrative of this entire postseason. Knicks get it tomorrow night. I feel pretty confident saying, okay, they'll be able to wrap this one up in another game or 2. But you even this series, that's a whole new ballgame.
Oh, yeah, because then it becomes best of 3 after that. Yeah, and the Spurs have the advantage because 2 of those games would be at home. So, yeah, we're talking about, this series could flip on its head if the Spurs win tomorrow. And I think the big thing with this game was just the fact of how well Wemby played. 32, 8, and 6. That's also not including the 3 blocks and 2 steals he had. He was just dynamite last night for San Antonio. And, Stephon Castle played pretty well. Again, Fox didn't play great last night, but he did hit that big shot there to kind of give the Spurs the cushion it needed. I will say, I thought for the most part the Knicks shot pretty well. Brunson, 11 of 25. He's always going to take the most shots in this team. But I thought the guys around him, like Josh Hart, actually played a lot better because he had only had 3 points, I believe, through the first 2 games. He had 16 last night. OG Anunoby had 28 last night. Cat had 11. Bridges only had 2. Again, Brunson had 32, but 11 to 25. You'd like him to make more shots. That was the thing. The Knicks, I think, aside from Anunoby, really missed a ton of shots down the stretch in the game. Again, 0 of 10 to start off the fourth quarter there. So they hit some shots in that stretch there. They might end up winning this game, but ultimately that's really what cost them.
Did you feel there was maybe a discrepancy on how fouls were called last night?
I don't know. I know it's been a little bit, tough this series with the fouls that have been called, but I felt like some of them probably should have been called. But overall, I don't think it was as bad as it was in these other games.
See Spike Lee almost come out onto the court and tackle the referee.
Yeah, there were times where I'm like, well, why is nothing being called there? But
he's Spike Lee. He's the super fan of super fans.
I will say, what did we think about the crowd last night? I know the main thing was, with the ticket prices and whatnot, and that prices out a lot of fans. I still feel like the Garden was rocking yesterday, as it should be for that type of game. I mean, first finals games in 27 years?
Yep.
Since '99. So I think the atmosphere was definitely electric last night, and it is a shame the Knicks didn't win that game, but I fully expect the Garden to be rocking on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the vibes were definitely high, and it was, again, what I think is going to be the best atmosphere you're going to see this entire postseason. One funny thing, because, again, you have Celebrity Row. We know all the usual suspects that are there, but I found it really funny, and she was wearing white pants, so it was really easy to spot her. Mariska Hargitay, who plays Deputy Benson on Law & Order SVU, was sitting in the front row, obviously. She kept getting blocked by the official every time they'd come down to that end of the court. So every time a shot would go up, you see her trying to, look around the official that's standing in front of her, and I found that really funny to follow throughout the entire game because it happened almost every single time they were on that end of the court. I guess that's the specific spot where that official's supposed to stand, but it kept blocking her view, and you just see her head, jut out to either side of them trying to see what's happening.
Yeah, it was. You could see Chalamet and Ben Stiller, who are sitting right next to each other, which makes a lot of sense. They should be right next to each other. They're just standing up and going crazy the whole time. I mean, it was a good atmosphere last night.
Sure.
All things considered, because it looked like an absolute mess out there in the city yesterday. They had, multiple streets blocked off for obvious reasons. And, I mean, it just looked like it was going to be, people had to get there hours ahead of time. I mean, it was just going to be crazy yesterday, but it looks like everyone was able to get in, and it made for a really entertaining atmosphere last night for what was another good game of this series.
Yeah, I saw some content people were putting out in at 2 and 3 in the afternoon. The line's already backing up, and how lockdown security was. And of course, anytime the president comes, it's going to be extra security. We know that for events here and stuff like that. So that only made it a little more complicated to get in. But it looked like it was packed out by the time the game started. Didn't have to delay it or anything like that. And again, the New York sports fans reacted, I think, how we expected them to their team losing their first home game in the playoffs in 27 years, and they're not happy about it.
Yeah, I will say I wonder how things are going to be tomorrow, because I mean the president's not going to be there for Game 4, right?
No, it was just last night.
Okay, so
to my knowledge.
So hopefully they'll be able to have watch parties outside the arena. Hopefully, because dude, they had borders up around MSG. I've never seen anything like that for it. Yesterday's game just had a completely different feel coming in compared to anything else I've ever seen.
Yeah, so definitely a crazy environment last night. Game number 4 coming up tomorrow. We'll see if the Spurs can even the series or if the Knicks can buy themselves another 2-game buffer. The Brendan Sorsby situation has rocked the college football world and college sports in general. We'll discuss the fallout coming up next as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry on your Tuesday on the Game.
The NCAA, that's 4 letters. That's nothing more. That's not an enforcement body. That's not a governing body. It used to be, and truthfully, I don't ever know that it had the teeth we thought it did. It was just, it barked really loud for a long time. And so schools were scared and got in line and they were complicit. And how foolish do you feel today, by the way, if at any point in your recent history, as a player or a coach or an institution, you self-reported violations, or you admitted to violations, or you just accepted NCAA sanctions? How foolish must you feel?
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri on your Tuesday here on the game. That being Josh Pate yesterday, one of many national talking heads in college football, all weighing in on the Brendan Sorsby announcement yesterday that happened while we were on the air during the show. So you didn't really get a chance to completely unpack it, though the news wasn't surprising that the judge in Lubbock, Texas, granted the preliminary injunction to allow Brendan Sorsby to play this upcoming season despite the fact that the NCAA had ruled him ineligible. And, Jack, as I'm going through yesterday, listening to people talk about this, reading all these stories about it, it kind of stuck out to me like this is a landmark moment in college sports. Like 10, 15, 20 years from now, we're going to be talking about the Brendan Sorsby situation as a defining moment for whatever the future of college sports looks like. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if we're going to go Super League. I don't know if the NCAA is truly going to crumble before our eyes like it kind of already has, or what's going to happen. But this moment, what happened yesterday and the fallout of it is going to be talked about for a very, very long time to come.
No, it's crazy what's happening with this. I really, I mean, even after talking about it yesterday, I'm still kind of dumbfounded that this was even the resolution that we got to here. And apparently, with the NCAA appealing, like their case wouldn't even take place until like February.
Which is exactly what Texas Tech needs. Because by that point in time,
it becomes irrelevant.
Season's over. Who cares?
What's the point in even having the case then? Right? Like what's the point in even going to court over this? Why? It just, the way this whole thing played out. And I know the judge is from, is not like a Texas Tech alum or anything. The judge is supposedly from the Houston area and whatnot. So it's not like it's not like one of those judges you get where it's like the Ole Miss situation with Trinidad Chambliss getting an extra year of eligibility. You can just, if you have a case to make, or even if you're in the wrong, you can get a local judge and get them to give you a preliminary injunction, and then you're cleared. Like what's stopping guys that have been long out of college for years now that went on to play in the NFL? I think I saw Tyrann Mathieu posting yesterday that he still has 2 years of eligibility left, and what if he gets a preliminary injunction? Like what's the NCAA going to do?
Yeah.
Right? They can't stop anything. They can't stop a nosebleed right now. So I would say yesterday was a pretty dark day for the NCAA. And it's unfortunate because the rules are clear. You cannot be gambling. But obviously, there are ways around it. And if Sorsby seriously does take the field this entire season, besides those first 2 games, with no more repercussions, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
And I think the NCAA officially becomes completely broken after that, and I don't know if there's any repairing it.
To your point of what Tyrann Mathieu tweeted out yesterday, which again he was being sarcastic, but like it's kind of something you look at and say, well, maybe it's something that could happen. Like, what is stopping like South Carolina, right? Let's say there's a couple injuries in the secondary, or they don't like the play they have at safety this year, and the Seahawks are on a bye week. What's stopping them from calling Nicky Minori saying, hey, you want to come play a game for us? Getting a local judge to grant a preliminary injunction to allow him to play that game, and then he goes out there and balls out and helps him beat, I don't know, whoever the Gamecocks be playing on the Seahawks bye week. Like, again, it sounds ridiculous, but we're going down this path. Again, we saw something similar in college basketball where you have guys that played in the G League that were able to come back to college basketball for a period of time with these preliminary injunctions. So what is stopping a current NFL player with maybe college eligibility remaining that decided to leave after their junior year for coming back and playing for a college football team again? Like, again, it's insane that we're having these conversations, but that's how wide open this has become. And Dan Wetzel wrote about this yesterday, for ESPN, that every other sports league, when it comes to gambling on your own sport, on your own team, that's a death sentence for your career. Pete Rose was never allowed in the Hall of Fame for betting on baseball, but Brandon Sorsby has to serve a 2-game suspension against Abilene Christian and Oregon State and then continue to play while he could probably still be gambling too. And that's another thing about this, right? The defense that Sorsby's camp was using was mental health. Right? He's so addicted to gambling. That's why he placed $90,000 worth of bets and bet on his own team and was betting on, Chinese table tennis and all these other ridiculous things because he was just so addicted to it. And I get it. He went to this facility or whatever for a period of time. Do we know that he's cured, though? Like, do we actually know if he's beat this addiction or if he's just going to fall right back into it? Like, addiction's one of those things that doesn't just go away in a couple weeks. It takes time.
So he went to rehab, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he went to rehab, but as we all know, it's not, addiction is not cured overnight, right? Just like Tiger Woods going to rehab in, what was it, like Switzerland or something?
Yeah.
Out of the country for a few weeks, and then he returns. It's not magically cured. These things take time, and I don't know. I mean, it's just the guy was betting constantly, it sounded like making bets on the most random thing. What was he making bets on? Balls and strikes at a Cincinnati Reds game?
And he was betting on his own teammates at Indiana.
Dude, this guy's got major problems when it comes to gambling. That stuff does just not go away overnight. This addiction takes, I don't care what the addiction is, takes years to probably get over. So, yeah, that's something that is, it's not a simple fix, to say the least.
And now you're starting to see Georgia, Nebraska. There's supposed to be, I believe, a call with Big Ten teams later on today, and I think the SEC as well, in terms of not scheduling Texas Tech in any sports going forward, right? Because, Texas Tech is obviously one, and look, they're well-funded by Cody Campbell and their collective and everything out there, but this seems to be a point where everybody else in college football is going to put their foot down because I don't see anybody outside of the Texas Tech camp that's agreeing that this is a good thing that happened yesterday. Again, if you're a Texas Tech fan, you're going to say, hey, great, we got our $5 million quarterback that's going to help us potentially make a run at a national championship. But everybody else is looking at this and saying, no, this is absolutely ridiculous and a dark day for college sports.
Yeah, it's bad. To the point now where I think it's getting leaked out there that teams in their conference and teams around the country are not going to be scheduling Texas Tech, which I don't know how that all works. I think it goes for all sports. I think the Nebraska AD put it out to all the faculty and staff yesterday of hey, we're not scheduling Texas Tech. This is going to be very interesting to see what happens when the season gets going and Sorsby gets back to playing. What the reception's like. I mean, it's going to be massive boos, I'm sure, from the other teams and whatnot. But also, I mean, what is Texas Tech's outlook on this? I'm sure they're thrilled that he's playing.
Sure.
But I feel like there's almost got to be some feeling from that fan base or that administration of man, we really got lucky with this.
Oh, yeah, no, totally. And again, that's why, you get the local judge within your own county to do the preliminary injunction on this because he's going to give you the benefit of the doubt more likely than not, even though all the facts are heavily against Brennan Sorsby in this case. But, yeah, I mean, with the delay of the appeal not being until after the season, it's going to allow him to play. But I can tell you what, he's going to be the most hated player in college football because, again, everybody is talking about this, and nobody is on the Texas Tech side of things outside of the Lubbock bubble.
Yeah, so I do have something to say. We do have some South Carolina breaking news to get into on the other side.
Well, let's do that. We'll break some South Carolina news coming up next. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry on your Tuesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Felcher wrapping up hour number one. Sometimes news breaks and it takes you in a completely different direction than where you thought we were going to go. We talked about earlier in the hour, we thought we were going to have to be waiting, I don't know, maybe another week. I didn't think we would have a hire at all this week. But, Jack, it seems we are finally closing in on finding out who South Carolina's next head baseball coach is going to be.
Yeah, so South Carolina is expected to be hiring Kevin Schnall here from Coastal Carolina. So, yeah, that's why I'm saying, man, like, I wouldn't rule it out. And now we know for sure that, well, again, it is pending Board of Trustees approval, all that stuff. But, yeah, this thing is it's finally going to be happening.
By the time the meeting with the Board of Trustees is announced, it's basically a done deal, right? Like, there's no reason why they would not accept it.
No. So it will be Kevin Schnall as the next head coach. And I think this it's June 9th, and I think this kind of will silence a lot of the the doubt and frustrations and any adjective you wanted to describe of how long this thing has taken. So the work now really begins on building for 2027 and beyond.
Yeah. Then J.C. Sherber, the Big Spur, has the story up and says the announcement should come in the next 24 hours once the deal is finalized, barring anything crazy happening at the last minute. But this is the most concrete. And again, there's obviously been reporting about Schnall meeting with Jeremiah Donati, meeting with the university multiple times. This is the most concrete thing we've got. Like, hey, we're on the precipice of this hire happening. And again, what you guys report and what the university officially announced can be separated by about a day or so. But I'm reading this and what information is out there right now feels pretty likely this is going to be happening.
Yes. So that is your breaking news for the morning, man. Wow. That is crazy timing that it all just happened like that. So, again, we'll see when it's officially announced here. But, yeah, this feels like the hire that the Gamecocks needed to make. And, yeah, it's now going to be interesting to see what happens next.
Well, and as we talked about at the beginning of the hour, where, again, I thought we wouldn't hear anything this week because it seemed like Donati was very committed to vetting out and interviewing all candidates, including the ones we feel like are still coaching in the College World Series coming up later on this week, that, Schnall does have a kind of a breaking point of, hey, I need to figure out what I'm doing. I'm either coming to you or I'm staying in Coastal Carolina because I got players leaving in the transfer portal left and right. And if I'm going to stay at Coastal, I need to start working on next year's team and all that kind of stuff, where if you're going to bring me into South Carolina, we need to start getting things rolling on the transfer portal too. So, yeah, there is a hard cutoff when you have a guy that's been done with his season for a week and a half, potentially waiting for another week. And it seems like, I don't know if that was a factor or not, but it seems like this should be getting close to wrapping up here soon. Yeah,
so I think that is very exciting for the Gamecocks here. And we'll see now what's next as far as, like, what players are going to be staying, who is coming with him, what coaches are coming with him. There's a lot of different moving pieces to figure out here. But, yeah, it's finally looking like it's going to be happening here.
Yeah. Now, did you know anything coming in here this morning?
I had a little bit of an inclination, but, again, I was just I felt like if nothing had happened by Wednesday, then I kind of had the idea of, okay, this may end up going a different direction.
So there it is. News of the morning. South Carolina expected to hire Kevin Schnall as their next head baseball coach, and bringing to the end, it's been 80 days since they fired Paul Maneri, somewhere around that, March 21st.
Is that how many? I don't know how many days that is from now.
Let me look it up. Let's see. Days, this great radio, since March.
Point is, it's been
21st.
Almost 3 months since anything has happened, with this process here. So it's crazy.
Why is this not giving me a day counter? Regardless, it's been like 3 months. I don't have the specific days. It's been like 3 months since South Carolina and Paul Maneri parted ways. That almost feels like an entire lifetime ago. And obviously, you had the back half of the season with Monty Lee being the head coach, and the will they won't way in terms of, like, is he going to be a candidate? They part ways with him as soon as the season ends. And, like, Schnall's been a name that's been at the top of this list pretty much the entire time. Again, it's kind of had its ups and downs here recently of like, okay, are they looking more at, a Forbes or a Sabins or a Fitzgerald or whatever? But like he's always floated around that top 3, if not being number 1. And it's not a surprise, I think, to anyone that this looks like it's going to be the hire that's going to be made.
Yeah, so I think this is the hire that will get Gamecock fans excited. Again, there's still the fact that you need to go out there and win games, but you get someone that has been to Omaha, has been to the College World Series, has had great success in such a short amount of time as a head coach. I know this season wasn't what Coastal Carolina wanted, nor Schnall, but you do have to accept the fact that they still won, 37 games, despite the fact that they were dealing with injuries throughout the year. I mean, it felt like every week somebody, whether it's Cam Flukie or one of those other guys in the pitching staff, was going down with an injury. So if they were fully healthy, maybe things go a different direction. But ultimately, you do have to. It is important to note that they were dealing with a lot of injuries this year. And I mean, he's responsible for building a very good ball club out there in Coastal, even before he took over as head coach, when he was the associate head coach under Gary Gilmore for almost a decade in Conway before that.
This is a hire that's going to get people very excited, and we'll get all the finalized details coming in the next day or so. But it's good to know that this search is finally coming to an end, and again, we'll continue to provide updates and details as the next couple days go on in terms of the official hire being made. But coming up next, we get into the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. Aspen Boulware, incoming Gamecock softball player, going to join us coming up next here on The Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing here on your Tuesday morning. Tyler Head West Mitchell, happy to be joined today by incoming Gamecock softball player Aspen Bulwer joining us here in studio. Aspen, appreciate you taking your time. How are we doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for coming in. Hopefully, your tour around the studio was good from West a moment ago, and excited to talk some softball with you.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So, Aspen, it's actually been a while since I first talked to you about the recruiting process, maybe going into your senior year. Now you sit here, you're what? Let's count them out. Max Preps Player of the Year, Gatorade Player of the Year, State Champion, Region Player of the Year, all the Players of the Year. You finished, we were just talking about it, with a home run on your final at bat. I mean, you were kind of writing a little storybook ending there to your high school career. So, like, when you think of all of that, what did it mean to go out in that way, and not just for yourself, but with those teammates that I know you're super close with?
Yeah, transparently, like, last year I was really, like, striving to get, like, the Gatorade Player of the Year and, like, kind of hit all of those accolades, like, the home run record. Like, I was kind of going for that, and the beginning of this year was kind of slow for me. I was getting walked a lot, I was getting hit a lot, and it was kind of frustrating, but my dad helped me, like, center my mindset. Like, I'm here, this is my last season, like, enjoy it with my teammates, and I'm kind of sad to leave a lot of the juniors that I would have been graduating with, like Peyton Hendricks and Mackenzie Cease. Those are, like, one of my two best friends on the team, but it was really, truly amazing, and be able to end the way I did, it was great.
How special was it for you guys to be able to cap off not only with the state championship, but the first perfect season in great collegiate history?
It was really fun. My coach, he was really motivated. He was like, "Come on, guys, we got it. Like, we undefeated. Like, we can do it if you just stay focused and work hard." And we're all here, like, chilling. Like, hey, like, can we get some ice cream after practice? Like, so it was fun. And he always kept us, like, motivated. But with the girls, it was truly just, like, play. It was, like, a fun sport to us.
With Coach Doug, what did he mean to you just in terms of kind of as a mentor, but helping you along the way continue to kind of improve your game and kind of improve off the field as well?
For Coach Doug, I say this a lot around my team. He's like a little grandpa coach, you know? I don't think he's ever said no to me when it comes to, like, asking for extra reps or, "Coach Doug, can you give me another pair of pants? I ripped mine." Like, really anything. He's always been there for me, and I couldn't ask for anybody else. He's been amazing.
And just being a great collegiate in general, and we talk about them a lot for just how good they are at all sports. What's that environment like from just the athletic standpoint of being in a place that produces such high-level talent, no matter what sport it is?
I would say the softball team, the basketball team go back and forth a little bit because the coaches, like the basketball coach and the softball coach, are close. So he'll be like, "Oh, like, softball's easy. Like, come on, like, the basketball team would kill y'all in a game." And we'll be like, "Come on now." Like, it's just kind of fun, competitive, very nice, like, because we both are pretty dominant, I would say. And so it's been really fun. And it's not like we just kind of push each other. You know what I mean?
Did you play any other sports growing up, or did you play them well?
I would say I was athletic. I played because I was young and I wanted to, like, be busy. I played basketball and volleyball. I played volleyball my freshman year, and I finished basketball my 8th grade year. I knew I was gonna decide softball, but volleyball for me was, like, very fun. Basketball was a little bit more like, gotta work harder. But it was all really fun for me.
Yeah, I mean, basketball, I feel like it's just a very different skill set than softball. Maybe not a lot of carryover there, but, you know, for those who don't know, both of your parents, high level, like, elite athletes, your uncle as well. What did it mean to you, like, as you have grown into the position you're at right now, to have them by your side? Like, what did you learn from them along the way? I know it's maybe a loaded question, but...
Yeah, so a lot of people assume that there's a lot of pressure in my family. Before I got recruited, it was pressure to go to Fort State. And even now, they're like, "What's it like having an NFL dad and your mom that has been very, very successful in her field?" Like, It's really nice because they provide a lot of perspective on things that I haven't experienced yet. And so my dad, he leans more into the work ethic and effort and attitude and mindset type of thing, and my mom kind of just handles the softball part of it, and they balance each other very well. And sometimes like my dad will go hard on me and my mom will come after like, hey, like it's okay. Sometimes my mom will be the one chewing me out. So I really appreciate and I don't take for granted the things they pour into me to make me the athlete that I am today, and I couldn't ask for anybody else. So
Again, talking to Aspen Bullware of Gamecock softball here on the Garnet Trust Tower. So you were not born during your dad's NFL career, correct?
I was born in 2008, and I think that's when he got injured. So
Okay, so you weren't old enough to experience it though. So
No.
As you grow up, like, what was it like coming to the realization, like, wow, my dad was a professional athlete? Like, what is that like?
Okay, so I didn't really know that he was till all of the guys in like my 8th grade. They're like, wait, your dad is Michael Bower? Like, wait, what? Or like he'll pick me up from school and be like, you just hear a whole bunch of like whispers and things like that. And I didn't play football. It's very like complex. I still don't really know a lot of positions, but it's mostly like the people around me that are like, oh my gosh, your dad played in the NFL. Like I knew my mama was good, then my mom was like, oh, my dad just played football. Like that's normal, but yeah.
So to you, it's just dad and mom. And then
Yeah.
to everybody else, it's like, is that former NFL star?
Yeah, because
basically.
my dad's very humble. He's
Yeah.
never like, oh yeah, this is. He'll tell us about the pick he had against Tom Brady. That's like one of his favorite moments. But
Hey, I'd brag
besides
about that too.
I know, right? But yeah, that's pretty much it.
So your mom, obviously a great pitcher. At what point did you kind of, like, I'm sure at some point early in your career you pitched as well. Like, at what point was it like, well, I'm gonna go be a position player and a hitter? And was it ever a thought of like being a two-way and kind of trying to do all the above?
So I loved pitching. I loved catching just because I wanted the attention. I wanted to have the ball every pitch. And for me, every other position was boring because like growing up, the girls don't really hit the ball that much. So I kind of played everywhere, pitcher, catcher, a little bit infield, a little outfield. And then once I played my first tournament with the USA team, I realized I was like, I'm not necessarily good enough to pitch, and catching was still kind of like, it was kind of in the back of my mind. But my dad was the one that decided for me, because I couldn't pick between catcher and shortstop, and so he was like, okay, like we're gonna do shortstop and we're gonna go at it. So at 14, I think it was, I stopped kind of playing everywhere and I kind of settled in to one. And the organization, my travel organization, helped me a lot. They would help me, like, I would play with my team and I would play with like the younger team just to get more reps, because I hadn't been playing shortstop as long as these other girls have, and I wanted that to be like where I wanted to play. I wanted to be very experienced in the infield. So they helped me a lot, kind of like growing my tools in that aspect, but I love it.
So at what point in your athletic journey did you kind of realize, like, hey, I'm good enough to play this sport softball at the next level? You mentioned kind of solely focusing on that as you got later into your high school career, but was there kind of like a moment of realization, like, hey, pretty good at this, I can translate to the next level?
Yeah, so growing up, going to camps, it was so annoying because all the coaches would be like, oh, you've got potential, or oh, just wait till you get older. And I was always the smallest on my team, so it was just like, kind of got pushed to the back just because of my size and because I was younger and I would play up. I would say maybe when I started playing with the USA team, like that was something that I didn't think I was good enough to do. And I started playing with them. I was competing. Like originally I was like, I just want a jersey and to be on the field. And I was playing and it was fun. I was like, okay, like I kind of see this going somewhere, and it did. And so I'm really grateful.
Now, what is the plan moving forward? I know you played with USA last summer. I know you're going to get to South Carolina as soon as possible as well. When, like, are you playing USA ball this summer as well? How is all that going to work moving forward?
I know for sure I have a camp in, I think it's 2 weeks from now. And then later on in November, I don't want to say the date because I'm not really sure, but we go either to Peru or the Dominican for some games, some international games. But I think that's all we're doing this year.
Okay.
Where is that taking you? Playing for the USA team, where is that taking you so far around the world?
I've been to Peru. I have been to Takasaki City, Japan. I've been to Tokyo, Japan, and then Oklahoma.
You were playing some center field.
I play outfield for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
How was that?
I love it. It's really it's definitely like the stress level is so much lower in the outfield. I'm just chilling, you know. I'm just like all I really have to do is worry about hitting. Originally, like I was catching a little bit, and then coach put me in the outfield because she was like she's fast. Like why would I put her behind the plate? I originally didn't like that answer, but I've learned to really like the outfield, and so being able to kind of be diverse on the field has really helped me a lot. So yeah, it's been really fun.
Let's hit the recruiting process here a little bit. When did you know it was going to be South Carolina? Like along the way, I know there was maybe 2 or 3 schools that it felt like were maybe in it more than the most. How did that kind of play out in terms of you picking the Gamecocks and why?
So I didn't know till the very end. We decided like in the very beginning, like I'm gonna pick my visits and I'm gonna take them all. And so in my mind it sounded good till we got to the end, and I'm like, oh, we still have some more to go. But it was all worth it. It gave me a lot of perspective, like seeing the different schools. Not all the schools are the same. So I didn't know till we finished at Florida State, and we're just like, my parents were like, all right, Aspen, like, do you know which one you want to go to? And I'm like, no. They're like, how do you not know? So I want to say maybe like a couple days after I actually like got home, I let it sit. I prayed about it. I talked to my family a lot about it. But South Carolina was towards the top of my list as I took all of my visits, but I wanted to like not be biased. I wanted to kind of go to each school without anything in the back of my mind so I could truly like know what each one was about. But South Carolina stood out the most for me.
And how many schools did you visit? Which ones?
I went to USC, Georgia, Florida, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, and Florida State. So 6 in total.
Whew.
Yeah.
What?
And in the middle of that, I played my tournament with USA. And then that night after we won, we drove to Texas Tech.
I'm sure it was fun, but was it like just exhausting at points as well?
Yeah, I would say after I visited Oklahoma and I played for the USA team, like I was tired. And then Florida State, like my last visit, I was like kind of tired, and I was like, Mom, like I don't know if I really want to go, but I truly enjoyed it just because it was like my mom and my dad's alma mater, and they both went. And they both, like, it was just, we would drive, they'd be like, oh, this is where we went that one time, Jessica, back whenever we were in college. Like, it was so much fun, and it was, like, rivalry weekend. All my brothers were there, and, like, my dad's old NFL teammates and stuff like that. It was so much fun, so I really, like, don't regret not going.
She is Aspen Boulware, incoming freshman for Gamecock softball. We'll have more with her coming up next as the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing, rolls along on your Tuesday on the Game.
All right, everybody, let's tell you about our friends over at Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. As always, the presenting sponsor of the Garnet Trust Hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays here on the Game. Krantz Cooling and Heating has been providing great HVAC services to Midlands residents and businesses since 1983. And now that same great service that you're accustomed to for your heating and your air conditioning now applies to the plumbing line. You can hit them up at 803-672-3224. You can also go to their website at krantzcooling.com. That's Krantz, cooling with a K.com. Can text them directly from their website. Let them know about what HVAC issues you're seeing at your home or business, what plumbing problems you're having. They'll schedule an appointment, come out, take care of it. Shout out to Justin Krantz, the general manager there. They do an incredible job. They've been out to my home and Wes's. Let them come out to yours. KrantzCooling.com.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. Tyler Head and Wes Mitchell hanging out with incoming Gamecock softball freshman Aspen Bulware here on your Tuesday on the Game. We were just talking about the recruiting process there a moment ago. You take all these visits, go into a lot of high-profile programs for ultimately deciding on South Carolina. What has your relationship been like with Ashley Chastain Woodard, and how do you view what she's been able to do in her first 2 years here at South Carolina so far?
Our relationship is amazing. I really, really like her. The first time, well, the only camp that I've been to, she was very, very nice to me. And I know what I said about my coach. He was like a grandpa feel. She gives like mom vibes. Like she is always like, hey, what do you need? Okay, how's it going? You know, things like that. Coach Katie gives me more like coach vibes. And then Coach Ash is like, what's up, guys? How are you doing? Which I love. I feel like that's a perfect balance when you have two coaches like that. So yeah, it's been great.
So we've got grandpa vibes, we've got mom vibes. Do we have sister vibes anywhere? Is anybody kind of taking that role yet? Or?
I would say probably Precious Bros. She's been really, really sweet to me, kind of just like been there. She would come to my games. She gave me a little graduation gift. She's just like really, really nice. And so I feel like we have a lot in common with just kind of where we came from. We both played here. We both played shortstop in high school, and we're both really athletic, so I really, really like her.
You mentioned Coach Katie, referring to Coach Katie Browder. She's very involved at South Carolina, like in terms of everything they do offensively. I feel like you were just talking hitting with me off air. So have the two of you had a chance to like really just chop it up and get into some deep hitting philosophy questions yet, or is that coming next?
It's probably coming. We definitely did that during the camp, and I'll send her some questions if I'm working with my mom, but I'm excited to see how she breaks down my swing once I get there.
Do you have any favorite players from watching South Carolina the past couple of years? You mentioned obviously Precious Bros, but anybody in particular that stands out to you as your favorites to watch?
I don't know if I would say favorites because, like, transparently, I haven't really been tracking South Carolina before I decided like that's where I wanted to go. I would say like I really liked watching Carly Shelton. I know she transferred, but she's like so fun. Like I love her energy, and I love like the way she moves and the way she hits and things like that. She's a power lefty, right? Like I just kind of like watching her play.
Now, you mentioned lefty. You throw righty, obviously. Have you always hit lefty? Was that something that just, you know, your mom was like, hey, if you can hit lefty, that's an advantage? Or how did that part of your game kind of come about? Was it natural, or you decided?
No, it's not natural. My mom was like, okay, we're going to put it in a left-hander's box because it's closer to first base. So
Yeah.
that's what
How early in your life was that? Like,
when I started playing when I was around 8, so around there. She was like, okay, this is how you hit. And this is how she taught me how to hit left-handed.
can you hit righty too?
Nah, not at all.
No
Nope.
chance?
Nope.
Okay.
So are you right-handed?
Yes, I'm dominantly right-handed.
So as somebody that tried to bat left-handed when I played baseball, I can't fathom doing it on the opposite side. That's just that's incredible.
Yeah.
But you didn't start when you were 8 years old, Tyler.
I did
That's
not,
all
no.
you've known.
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah,
right?
all I've
True.
known was the left side. Like my dad, he's left-handed and hits right-handed. And so I right-handed, and then I just hit left-handed.
You do everything else right-handed?
Yeah. But anything that has to do with like that, so like hitting, let's say surfing, like skateboard, like that type of thing, I'm always going to go to like the left side.
Left.
So my right foot forward and my left foot back.
Wes, that's why she's a college athlete and we weren't.
Yes. Among other reasons. But you play golf? You ever
Yeah, I have golf.
lefty?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anything that you're swinging or using, like footwork, I guess.
Yeah, but like it's on the left side, but like my right hand is in the front. So like if I threw a frisbee, you would go
Yeah.
from that side, which is like the same as hitting.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's all like really comfortable. I've never like, hold on, this is weird.
What are you doing right now? Like, what's the season is over? Are we resetting a little bit? Are we right back at it? What's the balance in your life right now?
So the day after the state championship, my dad was like, all right, like let's take 2 days off, you know, reset. I promise you it was like the second day, he's like, did you practice today? Did you work out? And I'm like, Dad, you told me to take 2 days off. But I got a little break, and then we had orientation, so I wasn't able to do too much. But I'm definitely back to working. I have to prepare for USA Camp in a couple weeks. So I just had a 2-day with my family yesterday. My mom and my dad, they go out in the field with me, and my mom will pitch and catch me at first base, and my dad will hit me ground balls. So that's always super fun. I love, if you watch my social media, you'll see a little bit of that. So then we're going out there later today and getting more work in.
Couple more minutes here with Aspen Bowler on the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. You mentioned taking a couple days off. When you are not doing softball-related things, what are you doing for fun to relax or hang out with friends or whatever?
I love hanging out with friends, but because I live with like 3 brothers, the house is never quiet. So between going to their practices or just fooling around at the house, it's always like busy between all the rest of the kids.
Tyler, I'm going to take over this real quick.
Okay.
Let's do a little bit of this or that.
Okay.
First thing that pops in your mind.
All right.
on the spot here. Okay, so this or that, candy or like a baked dessert, like cookies, cake.
Baked dessert. I don't like candy.
Don't like candy. What's the baked dessert that we're picking?
I would say a good croissant. Like, croissants are my favorite. So, like, California Dreamings croissant. Oh, my gosh. So good.
With the honey butter, whatever they put on that.
Yes.
Okay, home run or Sports Center diving defensive play, like you made an awesome defensive play?
I would have to go with defense.
Really?
Only because, like, there's a lot of people that can hit home runs. And I love testing my range. So, like, just imagining, like, going, like, full out dive and making a stop and then, like, executing the throw. Oh, yeah, defense.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Easy.
Yeah.
Okay. Trying to think. Steak or chicken?
Steak.
All day.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Okay. Tyler, you got any to throw in on this?
Not for this and that. I do have to ask. I found your USA softball profile. Is "Baby" by Justin Bieber still your go-to karaoke song?
I don't know. That's kind of old, but that's always an easy one. That's like fun, gets everybody up.
Now, are you a big Justin Bieber fan in general?
Not really. I just like that's just a song I know all the words to.
Okay. Well, like, what are you listening to though?
Ooh. I don't know. I listen to a lot of different stuff. I would say Drake. I would say I like a little bit of Tate McRae. I like a little bit of Michael Jackson recently. My dad has been on ever since we watched the movie, so we'll hear that in the car a lot.
Healthy mix of
yeah.
all backgrounds. Movie or TV show?
Movie.
Do you have a favorite movie?
Okay, it's like a series, but Pitch Perfect. Oh my gosh, Die Hard, Pitch Perfect.
Okay.
I love Pitch Perfect.
Instagram or TikTok?
I like scrolling on TikTok better, but Instagram, I feel like more connected with like people, so probably Instagram.
Okay. What's your pregame routine?
Okay, if you know me, I love to eat. Like, I love to eat. So I will be eating like before the game, in the game, after the game. So I always want to make sure I'm like eating a good meal before, whether that's like something my mom made or something that I pick up. I like tropical smoothie, that's easy. But I would have to say consistent pregame TikTok is definitely like in the routine.
Okay. What's your go-to meal just in general?
Like in general or like before the game? Or
if I just said you can pick anything to eat for dinner tonight, what are you going for?
I love pasta, but also I love steak. So I don't know.
Steak pasta.
You can have them together.
Yeah, I guess maybe together.
There you go.
It's protein and carbs.
Aspen, this has been awesome. We appreciate you taking the time. Wish you nothing but success. How excited are you to get to South Carolina and officially start, I'll say, the next step in this journey?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I never thought like my college experience would start with so many people I already know. You know, I figured I'd go into a team and have to just like learn everybody, but I already know a lot of the girls, which is really nice, and it makes it a lot easier to transition and more comfortable. So I'm excited, like, you know, getting to know more of the girls and hanging out with the girls I already know, like Boo, we play on the same travel team, and Libby and Precious and all those girls. So I'm definitely super, super excited.
Well, like Wes said, we certainly can't wait to watch you here at South Carolina and hope you have a great and successful career. And you're certainly welcome to come back here anytime. We'd love to have you back again. And thanks for hanging out with us today.
Of course.
Aspen Bulwer there, incoming freshman for Gamecock softball, joining us here in the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing on your Tuesday on the Game.
All right.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. It's Tyler Head and Wes Mitchell along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Again, thank you so much to Aspen Bullware for joining us this morning. As we've talked to a lot of softball players here as of late. Had Lexi Winters in the studio a couple weeks ago, and then there with the Aspen Bullware, and certainly excited to see what she's going to do as she begins her South Carolina career coming up in the spring after wrapping up a phenomenal high school career with Great Collegiate, culminating with that state championship in the perfect season, just the other day. But excited for that, and also very excited for the future of Gamecock baseball that is now coming more into focus as South Carolina, and again, news coming out right out about an hour ago, is set to hire Coastal Carolina's Kevin Schnall as its next head baseball coach again. And by the way, shout out to our guy Scott Hamilton, who's handling noon to 3 once again today on the halftime show, for giving me the official number that it was actually 76 days between when South Carolina let go of Paul Maneri and now we are closing in on the hire of Kevin Schnall as the next head baseball coach. And it's going to obviously take about a day or so, and that was what J.C. Sherbert said on the Big Spur earlier on this morning, that things should be finalized roughly within 24 hours. As we know, with any coach hiring process, there has to be the announcement of the Board of Trustees meeting, which I think has to give 24 hours notice, if I remember correctly on that. And then they have the meeting, they approve the contracts and all that kind of stuff. And then the hire is officially announced. Then we have a press conference. So all that stuff will be done as the week goes along. So I imagine we'll hear from Schnall in some kind of press conference capacity, more likely than not, by the end of the week. But that is very exciting that we're finally coming to an end, right? Like anytime you fire a head coach and you're in the process of firing a new one, the search process is exciting, but can kind of be exhausting too, as you're looking at different candidates and reading reports and rumors and all that kind of stuff, waiting for the ultimate decision to be made. And that's, even more amplified when you have to wait 3 months or almost 3 months, right? Between when Carolina and Maneri parted ways and now getting to today, when it seems like this announcement is all but officially official between South Carolina and Kevin Schnall. And look, this is a hire that gets people excited, right? That's one thing we talked about going into this whole process, again, almost 3 months ago. You got to get somebody that's going to get people in the door, that's going to get people rejuvenated and excited again for Gamecock baseball, because that is something that hasn't been there the past couple of years. Yeah, there was interest when Maneri was hired because of what his resume was, because he'd been to Omaha, because he had won a national championship. But we figured out pretty quickly that things were going to go off the rails, right? And ended up being two of the worst seasons this program has ever seen. But you bring in a guy like Schnall with his proven ability in this era of college baseball. That's the biggest thing. Maneri had been retired since NIL and the portal had been what it become. But Kevin Schnall has coached in this era of college baseball and had a ton of success. Again, only a couple games short of winning a national championship a season ago. And yeah, this season didn't go the way that Coastal obviously wanted it to, but nevertheless, in the postseason, once again, and no reason to think that Coastal, had he stuck around, would have been in position to be a serious national championship threat once again coming up next year. And now you bring that guy in to South Carolina and hope that he can get this program back to where it needs to be, right? For the longest time, South Carolina fans were not happy with the mediocrity, right? Yeah, Holbrook was making the postseason some, so was Kingston up until, the season when he got fired, but it wasn't the level of what South Carolina baseball had come to expect and come to know for so long during the Ray Tanner era, and that's why the move was made, saying, hey, this is okay, but it's not good enough. And you make the hire of Maneri with the expectation that he brings you back to that top of the top level. Obviously, it didn't happen. Took several steps back in the process that now Kevin Schnall is coming in and having to clean up. It's going to be a lot of work, namely with just rebuilding the roster, because you only got about, 9 or 10 guys that are left from this past year's team, and understandably so. When the portal's been open for almost a week and a half now, and you have guys here that don't have a head coach in place, then yeah, they're going to jump in the portal. And we talked about that with Craddock McCoy, guys like that jump in the portal because, hey, they're going to explore their options elsewhere, which you completely understand. We'll see if now that Schnall is being hired, if that reels any of these guys back in. Because as we know, the portal swings both ways. It works both ways, right? We saw it with Cam Scott in basketball, saw it with Josiah Thompson in football. You can enter your name into the portal and then quickly come back out if there's a spot for you, right? And that's, look, there's a lot of things that Kevin Schnall is going to have to do once he gets in place here at South Carolina, and one of them is, hey, evaluating the roster. Hey, what do we got? What's available to us? How many Coastal players can come over, right? There are a lot of Coastal players that did enter the transfer portal. It was part of that because they didn't know what the future was going to hold in terms of Schnall staying at Coastal, or is it something like they just truly want to pursue opportunities elsewhere? We'll see. But you see it a lot when coaches do go from one program to the next, bringing in transfers from their former school. And guess what? There's a lot of guys at Coastal Carolina that I think people would be very excited to see transfer into South Carolina and play baseball with next year. But again, all that's going to be in the process as Schnall gets hired, gets to come in and gets to settle in as the next head baseball coach. And again, we'll see what 2027 and beyond holds. But it is kind of a sigh of relief to know that we're coming to an end of this. And look, our job in here is to come every single day on the radio and talk about it. Wes, Chris, and Jack to write about it on Gamecock Central or Big Spur or whatever outlets are out there reporting on this. And for 3 solid months, or almost 3 solid months, basically, we've been talking about what it's going to be, who's going to be hired, what the candidates are. Jack and I ran through our gauntlet a couple weeks ago of comparing every single coaching candidate head-to-head to see who we thought the best head coaching candidate was going to be for South Carolina. So we've talked this process to death. We've just been waiting and waiting and waiting to finally see who that hire is going to be, and it's good to know that we are zeroing in on the next couple days, officially being able to say that Kevin Schnall is the new head coach for South Carolina baseball. Wes, is it a weight lifted off the shoulders, a sigh of relief that this is coming to an end?
Yeah, I guess. I'm a little bit sad. I don't know.
Really?
I mean, I'm excited, but I'm a little bit sad. Like, I was ready for it to be over, but now I'm kind of like,
the chase is fun.
It happened slow, and then it happened fast at the end. I feel like so.
Well,
and I knew it was going to happen. We had this awesome interview with Aspen. I knew it was going to happen, leading right up to something we were doing.
Well, I said, like at 9 o'clock this morning when Jack and I started the show, that, hey, it seems like Donati's very committed to vetting this process all the way out with these multiple candidates that we assumed were the guys that are still coaching, in the College World Series later on this week. So I was like, I just don't know if anything's going to happen this week if you're waiting on one or a couple of those guys season to end, possibly this upcoming weekend out there in Omaha. And I was proven wrong pretty quickly, which, hey, I'm glad. Again, we've been chasing this for 2.5, 3 months now. And again, Schnall's been the name that has been always towards the top of that list. And now it's seemingly finally coming to an end.
Yeah, it is coming to an end. And, ultimately you go out, and I know we got to hit a break here in a second, Tyler. We'll talk about it on the other side. But you go out and you get a guy who just – there was a reason we were talking about him from the very beginning as someone who made a lot of sense for South Carolina. He understands the state, talking about a very just detail-oriented coach. And, I certainly understand why, if you're South Carolina, you're checking in on some of these other guys. You're checking in on Scott Forbes at North Carolina. Does he possibly want to leave? And, I think it was a very thorough process. It really was. And now you end up with a guy that most of us really thought was, at the very beginning, maybe the coach that was most likely to get the job. And, just makes a lot of sense on both sides. And you were always going to want somebody who could get you back into the state of South Carolina with high school recruiting. And I would certainly imagine the relationships that Schnall and his staff have built, will certainly be very, very helpful in that regard.
Well, he might be bringing a familiar face along with him as well as an assistant coach. We'll tell you about that coming up next to wrap up the hour. Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing on your Tuesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. Tyler Head and Wes Mitchell wrapping up the hour here on your Tuesday on the game. Of course, the news this morning is South Carolina is set to hire Kevin Schnall of Coastal Carolina as its new head baseball coach. Of course, all that pending Board of Trustees approval and all that, which will be coming in the next couple days. And again, by the end of the week, we should have the press conference and the formal introduction and all that kind of stuff. And as we've talked about Kevin Schnall being the potential hire for South Carolina these past couple months, one name that always comes up in association is Matt Williams, who, of course, was the pitching coach a couple years ago with Mark Kingston, that went and joined the Coastal staff after Kingston was fired. Ends up having a phenomenal year last year, ends up being named the assistant coach of the year by multiple outlets for how good his pitching staff was, and obviously was back for his second year at Coastal this past year. And according to Jamie Bradford, the Big Spur, he is set to join Kevin Schnall as the pitching coach here once again at South Carolina.
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world, Tyler. And I think if you were gonna make this hire, like I'm not saying Matt coming along, or not was a deal breaker, but certainly I would argue he's been a huge part of their success. The last couple seasons at Coastal. The run that they made last year, man, a lot of that was based around just excellent pitching and getting the right guys in there, and then the development on the mound too. So you're talking about, again, I keep going back to it, man, the state of South Carolina ties. You're talking about a Lancaster guy. You're talking about someone who, it was widely talked about when he got the job the first time that, this was a dream job type scenario for Matt Williams to be South Carolina's pitching coach. And, man, I think probably if you look back at, not to go back, I know everybody's ready to look forward, but it's valid to say now, I think, if you look back at the tenure under Paul Mainieri, I would argue one of the biggest mistakes he made was not holding on to Matt Williams. And that's certainly, when you tie in the added layer of to bring in Terry Rooney, who, I'm not a big, negative, super bash people type guy, but let's just be honest, that was one of the decisions that Mainieri made that I think just doomed his tenure. And so for those two things to be tied together is, that was just such a big misstep for Paul Mainieri. So makes sense to get him back in that dugout. And, I'm excited to see. One thing Monty Lee has brought up multiple times now is the need for having some longevity at South Carolina, for having guys not just in the head coach seat, but in the assistant coaching roles, some guys that are able to build some roots, keep the same players, under the same staff for 2-3 years and let them actually develop. And now you've gone out, you got your guy at head coach, you got your guy at pitching coach, once all this is approved, of course, and made official. And so it's a big day for South Carolina. I would look for South Carolina, based on some buzz we've heard since this started under Schnall, to maybe look to add some bona fide SEC experience. I know there are some guys at Coastal Carolina that are, have been at Coastal as assistants for a long time. So do they also come with them? Do they stay at Coastal due to just the longevity there? We'll find out. But especially if it's kind of a situation where there's some openings on the staff, I think you will see him lean hard into that experience of guys who have really coached in this conference to kind of round out this staff, which I do think is an important aspect of this for South Carolina moving forward. But, man, you've got a guy that's got some grittiness to him in Schnall, toughness to him. That is what South Carolina baseball at its heyday was all about, the win anyway mindset. And I think you have someone who, let's be honest, he don't care about the press conference. He's not, he's going to say the right things, but he's going to be about winning, not about the PR aspects of all this.
Yeah, if and when we ever get the opportunity, talk to Kevin Schnall, I don't know if he's gonna, be talking about movies and candy and popcorn and that kind of stuff. He's a very business-like guy, no nonsense, and he does his job very well. And again, it's very intense to say the least. And you can go back to last year's College World Series final to see that on perfect display with what happened there. But a hire that gets people excited. Again, this process finally coming to an end, and again, we'll find out what the rest of the staff looks like, what's happening with the portal, and all that kind of stuff in due time. But for today, this fan base can be really, really excited, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, go celebrate it, man.
Yep. We'll get Chris's thoughts on this as he joins us to start the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs coming up next as your Tuesday rolls along here in the game. 11 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, and Chris Clark along with you here on the game. Chris, you jump into the conversation that we've been having for about the past hour now, where, again, if you haven't read it yet, Kevin Schnall is set to be hired by South Carolina as his next head baseball coach, bringing ultimately to an end this coaching search that's been going on for roughly 76 days, though, of course, we had to wait until guys were actually done playing their seasons to really get this ball rolling. But for Schnall and Coastal, who ended their season over a week ago in Tallahassee in the regional, it became interesting as we entered into this week of, okay, he's there and ready to be hired. The longer this goes, the less likely maybe that's going to happen. But now it seems like gears are in motion to make that happen within the next day or so.
Yeah, it was a fascinating search that's now come to a head. And, you know, Tyler, when you throw out that number of, you know, a 76-day search, you know, really that search has not been going on that long in earnest, right? It gave Jeremiah Donati and the administration a head start from the standpoint of you absolutely know you're going to have a coaching change. You're going to give Monty Lee, who took over pretty early in the season as an interim, the opportunity to put his stamp on the program, see if he's a viable candidate. We obviously know how that turned out as the season progressed and went on. And by the time we got to the end, we knew, hey, this is going to be an outside hire. But to really, really start the search in earnest, you know, you were going to have a situation where you could actually talk to coaches. You knew that, frankly, pretty much all the coaches that you were talking to, if not all of them, were in postseason play. We're going to be playing in a conference tournament, going to be playing in the NCAA tournament. We know, of course, that some of the coaches that South Carolina engaged with along the way ended up making it all the way to Omaha, right? So one of the questions that we were all asking over the weekend and trying to find out is, how long will South Carolina be willing to wait on a candidate? Will they look to hire a candidate who is in Omaha? How long will Kevin Schnall wait? And so now we have the answers to those questions. You know, again, hopefully this is the last time we have to reiterate this. This search was never a go through the motions, talk to some guys, but you're definitely hiring Kevin Schnall all along. South Carolina ran a legitimate, thorough, actual search that landed on a candidate that had always been linked to this job, that seemed like at many points the leading candidate, but it had to get there, right? It took some time to get there. It's actually not that long ago that Coastal Carolina's season ended, right? Some of the coaches that they engaged with along the way are still playing and are in Omaha. So it seemed like a longer process because of when the coaching change was made, but it's now landed on Kevin Schnall. We now have some clarity, and we can now start turning the page to, you know, what does this mean for the roster and the short and long-term outlook of this program?
Yeah, I was going to say, guys, I think people's minds immediately turn to two things in that area. One, what's the staff going to look like? We know that, you know, reportedly Matt Williams on the way as well, which makes sense, obviously. And who can you add via the portal? And in the same light, who from the current roster that entered the portal sort of as a little bit of, I don't really want to leave, but this is just a smart thing to do right now. Go ahead and get my name in there and see who's out there, see who's interested. I mean, I think there was a lot of that, guys, of just, hey, this is what you do now. You know, let's see what's out there, but let's try to leave the window open to potentially returning to South Carolina. So can you get a Will Craddock back on your roster? That to me would check one box, right? Like, this is a guy you know can play. He was only a freshman this year and had a really solid year playing in a lineup that frankly didn't offer much protection at all for its best hitters. So, you know, I think that's someone to keep an eye on early on, you would think. But what are the next steps for this? Who can you go get in the portal? How many of those Coastal guys are guys that all of a sudden are saying, well, let me call up Matt Williams, let me call up Coach Schnall. Hey, Coach, you interested in me in Columbia? Now, I would say this. Some of the Coastal early on transfers that people were reading into when the fake breaking news of Schnall being hired came where administratively, there's sometimes a little bit of a delay between when a guy tells a school, hey, I'm going to enter the portal. And like a lot of those were guys that entered the portal like pretty much when it opened, right? And so some of that was like your typical transfers. Like you can go through and look at their bios and be like, oh, this guy really wasn't playing at Coastal. That's why he's transferring. So I don't necessarily look at those players as likely to follow Schnall to Coastal. But I think a lot of us were looking at a few of the guys who entered a little bit later in the process now going, hey, that guy pitched quite a bit. That guy did some things at the plate for Coastal. Maybe they'd look good in garnet and black. Are there any guys currently on the Coastal team who were like ride or die for Kevin Schnall that now see he's making a very short trip to, from Conway to Columbia and saying, let me hit up coach and see if he wants me there too. That's just part of the game these days. And frankly, guys, I thought that was one of the biggest maybe early issues with the Maneri era was that you were hiring a coach who did not have a current roster in place, right? There was no, I'm going to follow Coach Maneri to South Carolina. Now with Schnall, that used to be frowned upon for a coach to poach their former players. Now, let's be honest, it's just expected.
Yeah, well, and also the timing of this, it's June 9th. The portal opened up on June 1st, so a little over a week ago. And yes, there have been some guys that have committed out of the portal to places, but there's still a ton of talent out there that you can go out and get. And that's one thing we've talked about as this process drug along. Is like, man, if you're waiting until after the College World Series is over, like the beginning of next week, there could be a lot of portal guys you're potentially missing out on in terms of building your roster for next year. But again, assuming everything's squared away here in the next couple of days where Schnall can start coming in and really putting things together and building the roster with the additional resources that the school is seemingly promising to him per the reports this morning about the hiring, then you're still in a good spot to build yourself something good to start off on the right foot, next year. And again, we'll see who those players are. We'll see if they're former Coastal players, if any of the Carolina players come out of the transfer portal, or if it's entirely a face of new guys. Or regardless, he's got a lot of spots to fill because there's about 20 free openings right now that you can get via the transfer portal.
Yeah, and I think where it's probably going to land guys is a mix, right? You're going to see some guys that have gone in the portal from South Carolina. I don't know at what clip, at what volume, but if we had to make an estimated guess right now, some of those guys probably back, right? You got to keep in mind with how far out high school baseball recruiting is. You see kids that are 14, we think football commitments are early. Go look at baseball. Kids who are 14, 15 years old committing to a program from high school. So Matt Williams, who by all accounts is coming to South Carolina, returning to South Carolina with Kevin Schnall as pitching coach, he has relationships with some of those guys, that are on the roster from his time recruiting here at South Carolina. So those are good relationships, which I think some of them are. There's an opportunity for some of those guys to return. You're going to have, I would imagine, some players from Coastal Carolina that Kevin Schnall says and his staff say, I want to bring these guys, and they're probably going to be interested in taking that next step to the SEC level and playing against that level of competition. And then there's going to be some outside guys who are in the portal now, who are going to jump into the portal that South Carolina goes and finds to plug holes on the roster. So my guess is, estimated guess right now, it's going to be a mix of all of those different, buckets that you're pulling players from in the portal. But the good news is now that you are making this move right now, you do have more time, right? That question has been answered. It could have been that South Carolina decided, hey, you know what? We want to hire and we can hire somebody who's playing in Omaha. We've laid out the timeline. That thing goes into late June. So if you were concerned about the timing of the portal, again, it's more important you get it right long term, but you now have an opportunity in the short term because of the timing of the hire to go make some things happen in the portal, whether it's retaining guys from your roster who have not gone in, trying to get some guys back who entered their names, or going out and finding talent from other programs, whether it's Coastal or somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think, guys, I still take something away from the way this process went, reading into it a little bit, maybe too much, but I take a little bit from the way this process went. in the fact that they did not let the portal drive the decision. You know what I'm saying? What does that tell us? And obviously, it's going to be at this point, or once it's official, it will be Kevin Schnall's program to run. But as Jeremiah Donati, as this administration, you're hiring a coach whose plan matches up with what you're looking for, right? And I got to imagine, yes, you're going to have to use the portal. Yes, there's going to be an expectation to improve this coming season, right? There's absolutely that expectation to get better, to not finish essentially last in the SEC. But there was not a push to hire a coach on June 1 just to let the portal drive every decision you make. And I think we all saw the results of just saying, short-term plan, we're going to win right now, forget high school recruiting, spend all your money in the portal, and let's go fix it. Well, guess what? Even if you had won, you would be having to flip that roster for the most part over in the next year, and then over and over and over and over again. So to me, this tells me, and I hope this is right because I think this is the way to go. I think you're looking for a guy to come in and be the coach for 10 years, to build a foundation, to build a winner. And I think there is actually a weird value to the fact that South Carolina essentially bottomed out this year. You are not dealing with, even taking over for Mark Kingston, there would have been a little bit, well, Kingston went to the tournament his final year. Kingston was a 2 seed in the tournament. They finished, I can't remember what it was in SEC play, but they're right around 500. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you bottomed out, you can actually potentially improve this thing in a little bit of an old school way and potentially gradually. I'm not saying that should be the goal, right, to just not win as many games as possible, but you cannot, at a job like this, leverage your future, in exchange for the potential to maybe win a few more games in year one.
Yeah, well, and that's what I think we've talked about in the past week or so, seeing that this was going to be a longer process than maybe we initially thought. With Donati having seemingly other candidates that were involved with Omaha and all that kind of stuff, that even if it did drag on to the end of June and maybe you did miss out on some portal candidates that maybe didn't set you up for the most success next year, if you thought the hire you were making, Forbes, Sabins, or whoever, was going to guarantee you more long-term success in 28, 29, and beyond, then that's what you do. You don't hire just for that first year if you think it's going to suffer years after that. Make the right hire, and it seems, again, it took longer than we thought, but they ultimately settled on Kevin Schnall, and we believe that he's going to be the guy that can hopefully take South Carolina back to the heights they've been waiting for the past 15 years.
Tyler, you're wearing your Braves shirt right now, your Braves hat.
Yes.
Do you remember the quote from Alex Anthopoulos where he was basically talking about the fact that Atlanta is a place where you need to be competitive every single year.
Right.
And it is a fan base that if you have a good product on the field, people are going to come out, they're going to bring their kids to the park, they're going to support you, there's going to be a great atmosphere. But if you kind of have this up, this down, this up, this down, the down years, you're not going to quite see that support. I look at South Carolina baseball, frankly, a little bit the same. If you have a competitive team on the field on a year-to-year basis with the potential for when you kind of cycle up for making a run, but your down years are a little bit more smoothed out where you're still a competitive, just kind of gritty bunch, Gamecock fans are going to fill that park.
Absolutely.
They're not going to fill that park if you're fighting for your 4th SEC win of the year.
New era begins in February of 2027 with Kevin Schnall at the helm, and certainly plenty more conversation to have about this as the week goes along. But coming up next, 88 days until kickoff, trivia on the way. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game.
All right, folks, let me tell you about our awesome friends over there at Integrated Media. Whether you're watching baseball, football, basketball, any other sports, movies, your favorite TV shows, our friends at Integrated Media can make that experience at your home even better. 803-948-8327. Call them today and talk to them about all their home theater services, their smartphone services, their audio and video upgrades. Maybe it's as simple for you as installing that new TV or taking your current TV, putting it on the wall, hiding the wires, adding some surround sound, and just having a much more professional home viewing experience at your house. Or if you've got that extra room in your home that's just been sitting there, you've been dreaming of turning it into a home theater or man cave. Ever since you moved into that house, you just haven't done it. Hit them up today, integratedmediainc.com, for more ideas about some great things they've done at homes around the Midlands, and let them go ahead and get started on that man cave for you. 803-948-8327.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West Chris along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. A lot of things going on to talk about today. Of course, we've been talking about the Kevin Schnall confirmation of him set to be hired by South Carolina. Again, that conversation will continue all week long. A lot of things going on in college football, including the Brendan Sorsby situation, which we'll speak to our guy John Bryce of USA Today Sports coming up in about 10 minutes about. But first, it is time for a little bit of countdown trivia. 88 days to go, which brings us to Wesley Saunders, as you guys suggested yesterday. Did you study his Gamecocks online page for today's question?
Much like when Mr. Good asked me in Calculus 1 if I had done my homework, the answer is no.
You're just going off vibes?
Yes.
Chris, how about
Vibe
you?
check. I did a little studying, actually.
Okay.
I'm sure you'll ask something that I forgot or didn't actually study, but I tried to do a little bit.
All right, Wes, what do you think the question is? Or the answer, I guess.
The answer is Clemson.
What would the question be?
This team. What team did Wesley Saunders absolutely torch in his South Carolina career, scoring, I believe, multiple touchdowns against during his time?
That's a good. I would have gone with the same one.
That is a good question. That is not today's question.
Is it
though.
remotely close?
It is kind of close.
It's
Okay.
It's kind of close. It is going to be a team you're going to have to name.
Oh, God. Okay.
The question is, Wesley Saunders scored his first career touchdown at South Carolina to go ahead for a go-ahead score to win what game in 2008?
Kentucky.
Chris got it. Kentucky. Would you like to hear that call, by the way?
You have that call?
I have that call.
Okay.
Well, coming out of high school at Jefferson High down in Tampa, this young man was considered one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country, threw for over 8,000 yards. And he will add to his touchdown throwing prowess here at South Carolina. Wesley Saunders, and the Gamecocks have the lead.
So Chris Smelly started that game. Steven Garcia comes in later in the game, ends up throwing that touchdown pass, which would earn him his first career start the next week against, I believe, LSU. But yes, Wesley Saunders scores the touchdown to put South Carolina up 24-17 to win that game in Lexington.
Man, Garcia, Chris, do you remember that game?
Yes. I have some memories of that game. I always get them mixed up. Like, I get that one. That was the one at home, right?
No, that was in Lexington.
This was in Lexington. Yes, I remember.
Take away half of his points.
I
was at this game. It was the Jason Barnes game. Wes didn't score, but he had 4 catches for 88 yards
against Kentucky.
2008, right?
Yep, 2008.
Yeah, okay. Jason Barnes.
I always thought of the game against Ole Miss that year being the Jason Barnes.
That's more of the Jason Barnes game. But this is one he kind of made his presence known.
So what was interesting about this is because the full game is available on YouTube. So do you ever do that thing where you're trying to find a specific point in a YouTube video and you click right on it? I did that because it's like 2 hours and 5 minutes in where you click on where he scores the touchdown at. But then I went to the beginning of the game just to kind of see the vibes and what was being talked about. They were honoring Chris Smelly so much because I think he had won like SEC Offensive Player of the week before
against Ole Miss. Probably.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh man, this guy, he's the answer at quarterback. He's the future here," and he ends up getting benched halfway through the game.
You just summed up, especially the early Spurrier era at South Carolina. So the week prior, Smelly went off on Ole Miss, and that was when I think Jason Barnes had the touchdown catch where he got just hammered in the end zone and held on. Smelly looked at the time, Tyler, like the perfect Spurrier quarterback. Just was like putting the ball in tight windows, was doing, was hitting his drop back and then getting the ball out quickly, knew exactly where the ball was supposed to go. And then the very next week at Kentucky ends up getting benched for Garcia, who, in my opinion, had not been like kind of coached out of some of his natural how when a guy is still young and they like kind of don't know to be nervous yet, they don't know, you almost have a little bit of ignorance and I don't know all these coverages yet. Maybe I'm just going to throw to the open guy, kind of like a see ball, hit ball standpoint from a batter's standpoint. And Garcia was out there dropping dimes on Kentucky. Like they do not win this game without Steven Garcia. And all of us went from, man, Smelly looks like the dude to, holy cow, Garcia looks amazing. And just had, I mean, that was actually, I would argue, maybe one of Garcia's better games. Like, he completely sparked the team.
Yeah, and again, that game back in 2008, South Carolina, 24-17 win over Kentucky. This game, by the way, was on Raycom Sports.
Dave Neal.
Okay.
I started laughing the second I saw Dave Neal.
All right, can you name the other two Daves on the broadcast? Because he was in the booth with another Dave.
Dave, and Dave?
Dave, and then you had a Dave on the sidelines. Can you name the other two Daves?
Chris, do you have it, man?
No.
Oh, me and my friends joke about this, the Dave, and Dave crew, all the time. Like, they're gonna be very mad that I don't. Dave, oh God, one of them was a former quarterback.
Yep, for Iowa State, if that helps. Long time.
I got
ago.
nothing.
I'm gonna just quit. I'm out of here.
Played for the Atlanta Falcons. No, nobody.
Nope.
Just tell me.
Dave Archer was in the booth with him, and then Dave Baker was on the sidelines. So Dave, and Dave.
That was an ugly game, too, guys. Each team had 2 picks, and then South Carolina actually lost 2 fumbles, so 6 turnovers in the game. It was kind of ugly, but Carolina won. They got it done.
They won, and
Wesley Saunders.
Wesley Saunders' first career touchdown back in 2008. The college football world is talking a lot about what's happening with the Brendan Sorsby situation. We'll dive into it with our guy John Bryce coming up next as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls along on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris with you here on your Tuesday on the game. A little over 24 hours removed from the news that the judge in Lubbock, Texas had granted Brendan Sorsby the preliminary injunction that will allow him to play this upcoming season despite all the evidence mounted against him with the gambling issues that he had over the course of his college career. Here to dive into it a little bit deeper from USA Today Sports is our guy John Bryce joining us on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. John, appreciate the call as always. Is yesterday a day and a situation we're going to be referencing for years and decades to come in terms of what it's going to mean for college sports?
Yeah, I think yesterday was an inflection point, Tyler. I think yesterday was a stunning wake-up call. It was just so wholly unexpected, so unorthodox, and really so indefensible. Had Sorsby done some of these things, in December and January, before he even committed to Texas Tech or took his visits to LSU or anywhere else, had he done some of this and shown that there was an acknowledgement on his end of having an issue, maybe you look at it a little bit differently. It still should be more than a 2-game penalty. But the fact that he didn't enroll in inpatient rehab until he found out that he'd been busted just let you know that once he got his hand caught in the cookie jar, he was just like, okay, I need some milk now.
John, it's Wes. Appreciate you hopping on again, man, to discuss this. So what are the next steps here? Like, I see stuff about, hey, the NCAA is going to turn around and sue. I see reporting on, institutions possibly saying, hey, we're just not going to schedule Texas Tech. Don't do it anymore. What do you think the repercussions are to this in terms of everybody else involved here?
Yeah, the NCAA has formally filed their appeal. They did so late yesterday, and they're asking that it be moved to court in Amarillo, Texas. I think it's 7th District Court in Amarillo, whereas they've been in, as you noted, Lubbock County Court in Lubbock, Texas. So they're trying to get a change of venue there, get the next step heard in Lubbock County Court. The problem is with the appeal that there's no timeline on it, and all the attorneys that we spoke with yesterday at USA Today, and some of whom have worked directly for power conferences in the past, I want to stress that, they indicated that there's absolutely no guarantee that the case can even be heard in the next 2.5 months before the season kicks off. And there's no guarantee that it would be heard even during the season. So right now the court case is set for February 8, 2027. I spoke again with an attorney this morning in the Midwest who said that he suspected that it would not be heard in time, even on appeal, even at request for an urgent appeal, as the NCAA did. So because of that, it looks like Brendan Sorsby is going to continue to be eligible to play. Texas Tech, I think, is going to have some really difficult conversations with itself and with other members of the Big 12 that it is considered allies, and certainly with Brett Yormark and his cabinet this week. Brett Yormark, of course, the Big 12 commissioner. So I think back to like the late 80s, early 90s when the Miami Hurricanes were the bad boys of college football. And I think that Texas Tech will be the most reviled team and program since that time if Brendan Sorsby plays for them this fall.
John, one thing that Charlie Baker from the NCAA, the president of that organization, mentioned in response to this news on social media was the need for congressional intervention, right? And, originally, man, when you go back even years now since we've been in the NIL era, there was this tension, and I think there still is, and it's heightened, and that it does look like a potential fix. I don't know if it's maybe the only fix, is to try to involve Congress somehow, an antitrust exemption, whatever it may be, so that there can be some type of structure to be able to, A, have rules, which we kind of have, and B, more importantly, enforce those rules. I mean, do you agree with that that seems like the solution? And if so, I mean, we've gone through so many drafts of legislation. Is there any chance that we actually get that anytime in the near future?
Yeah, great questions, Chris. And I'm always loath to advocate for more government involvement in anything, but that's where college athletics unfortunately is at this point. I've had to cover the Protect College Sports Act extensively. I was on the phone last week with Cruz's office and Cantwell's office discussing that proposal and covering the testimony on Capitol Hill. And it's a mess, and it's not perfect. It does provide some narrow antitrust protections. It does provide some scope where I think teams would be, or excuse me, leagues and programs and universities would be more incentivized to follow the rules and in danger of some potential repercussions if they don't follow the rules. But you guys know, I mean, I covered so much screwed up stuff on Rocky Top during my time on that beat. Like, you have to make the adults be adults. The adults have to want to follow the rules, or even if they don't want to, they have to be held to account for following the rules. And right now, there's rules in place. There's supposed to be rules in place. It's supposed to be real NIL. It's supposed to be revenue share that was negotiated through the House settlement that was accepted by both sides. And we don't have that because, Team A will say, well, we saw Team B get this extra deal, so now we're going to go get this extra deal, which is why I've said this. I'm working on a story that will probably lead our coverage for college football when we get closer to the season. I'm told the guys that there are going to be between 11 and 13 teams this year that have payrolls of $40 million or more in college football. And the House settlement for rev share this year is supposed to be a max of $21.35 million, and then you're supposed to fund new scholarships out of that. So you have some teams that are funding 100 scholarships and have payrolls of $40 million plus in college football this year.
John Bryce of USA Today Sports joining us on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. You mentioned the lack of enforceability on what are supposed to be rules. This is kind of an open-ended question. What even is the NCAA at this point?
Well, that is an open-ended question, but and it's one I've faced a number of times over the last 10 days probably. And I would say, let's not forget, the NCAA is made up of its member institutions. So people should be pissed off at Greg Sankey and Jim Phillips and Tony Petitti and the presidents and ADs at South Carolina and Clemson and Tennessee and Alabama and Georgia and Texas and Ohio State, Michigan, and everywhere that they've allowed college athletics to get to this point, because the NCAA is not some monolithic organization. It's not the man behind the curtain in the land of Oz who's arbitrarily making decisions. The NCAA makes the decisions that its membership and constituency tells it to make, and then it's tasked with trying to enforce that and trying to convey those rules and messages. But the NCAA, at the end of the day, is only what its member institutions say that it is. And right now, again, its member institutions are a gaggle of dysfunction.
Hey, John, I know you cover football, obviously, primarily, but do you want to put your baseball hat on for a second? Any reactions to South Carolina's expected hire of Kevin Schnall?
Yeah, I think it's a very strong hire for the Gamecocks. Chris knows me well enough to know I'm a massive baseball fan. I've covered the College World Series in Omaha. It's one of the best events I've been fortunate enough to cover as a professional. So, South Carolina has so much baseball heritage. Honestly, they have more heritage in baseball than any other men's sport over there, and they should never be in the situation that they've been in too frequently this decade. So South Carolina's got to get stability. Baseball teams, again, are spending more money than ever before. I mean, there are obscene amounts of money being spent in college baseball, but college baseball has never been better before because so many guys are staying the full 3 years before declaring for the draft. And so I think college baseball is very comparable to AAA baseball right now, and it's a great time to be a college baseball fan.
To about 2 more minutes here, who's your pick to win the College World Series?
Probably Texas. I know some of my colleagues at USA Today think Georgia is the hottest team, but I'm going to go with Texas. I think just with the depth of what they've got going on and the way they've been playing of late. So, yeah, I'm going to go with I'll go with the Horns and give them the softball and baseball sweep. I'm not sure if that's ever been done before.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. I don't know if anybody's doubled up on the diamond in the same year or not before, but Texas certainly has the ability to do that. John, man, we appreciate it as always. Keep up the good work, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you plenty over the course of the next couple of months before the season gets here.
Yeah, you guys are the GOATs, so I appreciate the chance to visit with you.
John Bryce there of USA Today Sports. And, again, the Sorsby situation, going to be one for the history books when it comes to college football in college sports. We'll talk more about that as we wrap up the hour. Coming up next, it is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris wrapping up the hour here on your Tuesday on the Game. And again, appreciate our guy John Bryce of USA Today, joining us in that last segment. Is again, this Brandon Sorsby situation is something that's going to send a ripple effect through college sports for a very, very long time to come. We're going to be referencing this situation for many, many decades, I'm sure, in terms of what the future of college sports is going to be. And, you know, guys, there have been so many situations, especially in court with the NCAA over the past handful of years. It's been big news, but I don't recall any where the collective opinion of just about everybody is the same outside of the little bubble there in Lubbock, Texas, where everybody is like, yeah, this is ridiculous and insane that, you know, this guy who clearly broke the rules, bet on his own team, which gives you lifetime bans in other sports, is serving a pop on the wrist 2-game suspension because a judge in Lubbock, Texas says, yeah, you at least got a preliminary injunction that's going to allow you to play. And that's all that they were really looking for at the end of the day.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And so, sorry, Chris, but I think somebody put it very well on social media when they were just like, this is maybe one of the most united fronts you'll ever see on Twitter. Like, does anyone other than Texas Tech fans, and I would even argue there's got to be some Texas Tech fans who are like half-heartedly arguing for their team, but are like, something about this just feels wrong, right? You know what I'm saying? Or maybe they're just like, I'm going to sit this argument out because deep down they know this just ain't right, man. And that has always been it's been a universal line, I feel like. Not just an unwritten rule. It's obviously a written rule in terms of the NCAA as well. But I would say even stronger, it's been an unwritten rule, like a self-governed type thing. You just don't bet on your team, and if you do, we just can't have it, man. It sets up too many slippery slopes, too many blurry lines when you're betting involving your team, man. And so it's just ugly. Like I don't think any of us, as much as things have changed, I don't think any of us thought this would go through. So I mean, what if the Big 12 teams just say, what if they set some precedents of their own and just say, hey, we're not going to play Texas Tech. We're just not going to do it. What happens then?
Yeah, we're not showing up. Boycott. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this the other day, guys. Like, I think all of us here on the show, all of us here that are talking, we all are all for, you know, player compensation and freedom to move within reason and things like that. But it was hard, like when NIL came along, it was kind of hard to see it getting to this point, even with NIL. But now we have gone, like we've kind of lost the plot because now we're going towards, hey, we got professional players in college sports, right? I mean, it'll happen at South Carolina. You look at the basketball program this year, and you know, they should do it, frankly, because everybody else is doing it right now. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to do it or you fall behind. But you got pro players. You got guys playing 7 to 9 years in college football. You've got the compensation kind of just completely going overboard where it's hard to manage. There's some downstream effects in multiple ways to fans, you know. And consider, you know, there's a part we were talking about the other day. Think about if you were a player who was a senior in like 2019, you know, like a Power 4 football player. What are you thinking right now? You're sitting there going, all right. I mean, this example got passed around the other day. Remember at South Carolina, it wasn't with the football program. It was a different sport, but literally got popped by the NCAA for putting cream cheese on a bagel, you know? And so you get popped, you know, for that. I had someone tell me who played at a small school yesterday that they had to report a violation because their coach drove them across the street to the facility, you know, and you've got things like that. You couldn't get paid. AJ Green's getting suspended for half a season for signing an autograph. And then you go from that extreme, which I don't think anybody thought that was good at this point, to now this polar opposite. And there's no meeting in the middle. You know, every week it seems like there's something more and more extreme, more and more polar opposite from what we had in the past happening. It's kind of unrecognizable in some ways. So there's still parts of this new era, players being compensated, being able to freely move a little more. Like, there's some positives in here, right?
Right.
But there are some things that are just really hard to square with the way that it should be, that with what is meant to happen.
Well, and now we're seeing this trend, and again, this is the most egregious case of it, obviously, but, with eligibility or breaking rules or whatever, the NCAA will say one thing, all right, you're not eligible anymore, or you don't have another season to play, and then you just go find a local judge that's going to be in favor of you to grant you a preliminary injunction, which, again, just kicks the can down the road for the legal process to play out, which, as we talked about with John Bryce, it doesn't seem very likely the NCAA can get their appeal through before the season starts, because if they're going to court for this in February, well, the season's over, and who knows what Texas Tech has accomplished by then, and for then it's all for naught in terms of the NCAA stance on things. So everybody's saying, okay, well, we can break a rule as long as we can get a judge that's going to rule in our favor and give us an injunction in the period of time that we need to let this player or however many players play for us.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I don't have any thoughts that other people haven't already had at this point. Like,
right.
I really don't even know what to say about it, because as much as things have changed lately with everything, I think we all thought this was where the line would be drawn, because it was such a clear violation of a very clear rule. Like, you can argue a lot of things, right? Mm-hmm. You can argue gray areas, and you can even argue the thing of like, well, why punish these current players when it was a past coach or team who did something? I don't even understand what the argument here is. Like, I don't. Like, it doesn't pass a logical test, basically. So
yeah,
it is. I think it's one of those things, guys, people like to say, oh, it's a free-for-all now. It's a free. And in the past, maybe that's even been a little bit exaggerated. But now it's like, okay, if this rule can't stand, then what do any of the rules mean?
Yeah, I know. And that's unfortunately, we're without college sports right now. Again, the most egregious example, and God, we'll see what comes next. That'll do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Halftime show. Scott Hamilton up next as he'll dive more into Kevin Schnall being positioned as South Carolina's next head baseball coach on your Tuesday here on The Game.
May apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at eatiqbar.com/policy/terms of service.
Morning, sir.
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to